Welcome to the How to Succeed podcast, the show that helps you get to the top and stay there. This is how to succeed at aligning with the buyer's journey. The following podcast is copyrighted by Sandler Systems, Inc. and protected by U.S. copyright laws. Sandler is the worldwide leader in sales, management, and customer service training. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, or share this episode with somebody in your organization that you think needs to hear it. I'm your host, Mike Montague, Director of Community Engagement at Sandler, and my guest this week is Jeremy Thomson, a longtime Sandler trainer from the UK, and we're going to talk with him about how to succeed at aligning with the buyer's journey. All right, Jeremy, open-ended question here to get us started. Tell me about the buyer's journey and what we're talking about today.
Wonderful. Yeah. Hi, nice to see you, Mike. So the buyer's journey, it's pretty simple, right? It's any journey a buyer takes to buy your product or service. Okay. A buyer doesn't wake up one morning and think, oh, I had this dream about this product I've never heard of. I'm going to go and buy that today, and away they go, right? Each buyer goes through a process. So much like we teach in Sandler, we have a process that you've got to go through to sell. Buyers are going through their own thing. Okay. And today, our buyers are more informed than ever. Right? There's so much information at their fingertips, right? And that's the digital world that we live in. And we see this a bit in sales, that the balance of power has shifted a bit in a sales situation, right? You think 10 years ago, you go to buy a car, unless you're a car nut, right? You'd get there and they tell you all about the car and the specs, what you're going to get. Now, you know that, right? You're going in and going, I want to see this one because I know it has this, it comes with this, and it comes in red, or whatever it is for you, right? So there's a lot more power there for the buyer. So I think when we look at it from a selling and from a marketing perspective, there's got to be that shift, I think, from selling to helping. Right? That's what the buyers want at their fingertips. Okay. So to do this, we've actually got to start finding out who a buyer is and what the journey they take is. And that's really what we're going to talk about today, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to dive into it with you. I know both you and I have a lot in common despite being separated by an ocean. So we're both sons of Sandler trainers, which puts us in a special Sandler spawn category of having a whole lot of sales training way before we had anything to sell. And then we also are big fans of marketing, and I think prefer to be marketing than sales, if we were honest. So I think we're in a unique position here to talk about both sides of the coin with sales and marketing. And I feel like there is some sort of bizarre competition sometimes too, that sales and marketing aren't aligned throughout the buyer's journey. And maybe that's our first misconception or myth, because I hear people in marketing say things like 70% of the buyer's journey now is done before they ever talk to a salesperson. And I was like, well, good luck cashing the check on that 70% of a sale you got there, marketing. We still need the sales department. And then you kind of feel like the sales process and all the emphasis that the sales team puts on these conversations and closing the sale, they're not giving credence to all the credibility, the 7+ touches that it took before they ever got that lead. And it can sometimes create an anxiety in an organization that doesn't need to be there. Would you agree? What do you think the common myths or misconceptions are?
Yeah, and I think particularly in a lot of large organizations, you see almost a competition, right, between salespeople proving they're the best by having the leads they create are better than the ones we're getting from marketing. Thank you. I don't know what they're doing over there in marketing. 70%. Right. And same for marketing, right? They'll be pushing leads there and going, why aren't you telling me how they're doing? Why aren't you closing my leads? Why are you only going after your own ones? And it can cause quite a lot of friction, right? And I think definitely the whole piece around the buyer's journey is the bit that has to align between both parties, right? Because you're quite right. There's a huge amount of sales that happens before they're talking to a salesperson, typically. Okay, and that's very much in marketing's court to help educate your potential buyers in what you're going to get, in how that's going to work, right? But it can start, I think, in how you all talk about your own product, right? So it's something that we talk about pains, right? So it's not features and benefits. It's how can what we do help you with a problem that you have. You have it now, you have it in the future, right? That's what we look at. And that's how we ask questions to try and uncover where that lies to know if we can help. It's exactly the same in our marketing, right? the emphasis there on what we're creating, on how we're driving awareness, it's got to be around those pain points again. Okay. And hey, the best way to find out what they are, believe it or not, is to talk to the sales team and go, right, what are these pains that you're already finding? What are they? How are they changing? You know, because they do change, right? Especially post-pandemic, etc. People are different all the time now. So we need to find out what those pains are, because that's really got to be replicated in our marketing and what we're putting out there, so that the people that are coming through from that in that system are getting that similar messaging the whole time, right? So it feels like a joined up approach. It feels like one company. It feels like they're buying something because they need it, because it fixes this one problem. They're not getting features and benefits, then buying pain, or they're not seeing this great thing that they want and then sales aren't selling it to them because actually they don't have that anymore and not sure what's going on, right? Yeah. But that's the first piece of alignment I see normally is marketing needing to sit down with sales and go, right, what are the pains you hear? What are you talking to people about this month, last month? What's really key? Let's build that into some of our content. So that's the first piece, I think.
I love that, because I think that's something that's shifted a lot in modern times, especially even since the pandemic, with people working at home and leaning more on social and virtual conversations. Means marketing has gotten to the point where it's not necessarily mass media marketing, where 50 years ago you ran a newspaper ad or a television commercial or radio commercial, and then somebody called and they were in the sales funnel. They talked to a salesperson. But now marketing can advertise to one person on social media, and salespeople can be building their own reputation and publishing content or sharing marketing assets to engage with clients. So I feel like that overlap between the handoff has gotten much wider than it used to be. It used to be very narrow, where it was like marketing makes the phone ring, sales answers it, and it's a nice clean handoff. But now we got to be marketing all the way through the buyer's journey, and we have to be selling all the way through the buyer's journey. That the sales might have a smaller piece of the pie at the beginning, and marketing might have a smaller piece of that communication at the end of the buyer's journey, but it really is almost 100% of the way for both departments. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so typically the first stage of a buyer's journey is that awareness piece, right? It's like, I have a problem, okay? And nowadays, as you're right, there's a lot of stuff that happens with marketing there that I almost find for some people, some salespeople that we might train is in their head, that's just a marketing thing to sort out, right? That it's about marketing finding out what that problem is. I'm going to tell them how to fix it, because everyone likes that, right? That makes us feel okay. We get our needs met. We're feeling like we're solving problems all over the shop. But we know a good salesperson is able to put people through that awareness stage, right? And too often they can rely on marketing to do that. But that's one of the real big differences between a good salesperson and a bad one, is those questions they ask to be able to do things like find out what these problems are. And too often we're seeing, if you rely too much on marketing for that, salespeople then aren't equipped with the right questions and the right strategies to actually go through that. And there's too many assumptions, right? We could let's take a Sandler example. We could use tons of prospecting content, right? People are always trying to find new ways of prospecting. You know, lead generation is the lifeblood of your business. Okay, so you might look at loads and loads of different prospecting bits of content, but your actual problem might not be that. Okay, you might be great, and you're just keeping your mind fresh, but that's the content you're coming in through. From marketing's perspective, when they pass it on to sales, they would say, Mike really needs help prospecting. He's all over this content. So they go and go, great. No need to do any discovery. Mike, you suck at prospecting. Let's have a chat, right? And you're going, no, hey, we're great at prospecting, right? We have opportunities everywhere. We just can't do anything with them when we close them because we need so many, right? Most buyers not that helpful with their answers, right? So I think it's about, you can't, neither side of the equation there can forget the skills taken to actually uncover that, right? And at the end of the day, it does all come down to speaking to someone, right? And that's not often marketing's job. They can give you a whole host of really, really useful information before you have that sales call. So you're not coming in blank and going, wow, what do you do? No idea who you are. You can start having those conversations. Hey, see, you've been downloading a lot of content around prospecting. That's something you're struggling with, or you're looking for a new approach, and you can actually, start conversations there, and that's what you can use it for. But yeah, way too much of the time we do here, hey, we don't really do that bit, marketing do that bit.
Yeah. I love where you went there, and two things come to mind. I want to focus back on the buyer here for a second, since we're talking about the buyer's journey.
Mhm.
I think the hard part for sales and marketing people are meeting the buyers where they are emotionally in this process. That marketing has to remember, like you mentioned earlier, if they've never heard, they don't even know your product exists. That's a completely different situation than if you're selling a commodity, they're already buying, they know it exists, they just want it from a different supplier. And so meeting them where they are in this buyer's journey, but also where they are emotionally, like you mentioned with salespeople, then is they may already be 70% of the way through this discovery process. They've gotten other quotes from other possible vendors, or they've done a ton of research, or they've been in this industry before, and they could be coming at you from a lot of different experience things. But I think also the one that a lot of salespeople miss is emotional states, right? This could be an immediate pain. They need to move right away and really fast, and they're close to a decision. Or it could be, this is a pain we're going to solve eventually in third quarter of next year. And you got to learn how to treat those buyers differently throughout the sales and marketing funnels. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. And I think marketing has come on so much in the last 5-10 years with the tools and the technologies available now to be able to map some of that stuff out and do some really cool. So as you said, you know, it's the thing we've done, you know, set up actual different scoring systems based on how people are interacting with content, how much, how regular, because you're right, people that are living that problem now, very different to people that are thinking, oh, we might have a problem with this in 6 months, right? And it's the job of a modern marketing professional to be able to create these systems that spot those pieces so that you can send them to sales and go, hey, this person's only just started interacting with our stuff, but wow, are they getting a lot of it, right? They're really in it today.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you a follow-up. My second thing that came to mind was about a marketing qualified lead versus a sales qualified lead. And I think those are really two places to align with the buyer. So the marketing's job is to figure out what and how do they do that. And I think we're into our behavior section of the conversation here. And then sales is, what do I need to do? What are their behaviors to make sure it's a sales qualified lead and worth pursuing there? And then what do you do if they don't make the leap, or how do you tie those two together?
Yeah, so one of the things we see a lot, especially in really high performing organizations, is that these definitions are super clear for everybody, what a marketing qualified lead is and what a sales qualified lead is. And the systems are set because they want their buyers and their prospects to actually go through that process as they should, because they know those are the informed buyers. Those are the buyers that once they get there in the sales process, they start understanding what close rates are and which ones are most likely to buy, etc. And we know when you start missing out those steps, things fall apart. Okay, right? We talk about it a lot in Sandler, happy ears, right? Salespeople can get happy ears, right? You can think someone's a sales qualified lead, bang, but actually your data might show you they haven't gone through a set of things with your marketing. They probably haven't. Okay, and I think a marketing qualified lead and a sales qualified lead will differ company to company. And that's okay. That's fine. I think it's important that you make sure, yeah, as I said, you know what it is and that's communicated across the situation, because that is often where those problems come, right? With marketing saying, hey, here's a great lead. Oh, I called, I didn't even know who we are. I never call on these people again, right? Or a sales qualified lead, maybe the salespeople think, but as long as they're ready to sign a contract, flick them over, right? Right. Obviously not, that's not for not what everyone be approaching it, but some extreme examples of what we do if we don't define them. Okay. And I do think, as we've said, you know, there's a lot of marketing that has to go on typically at the front end of a buyer's journey to help educate them, show them what we can do and why they would want to be speaking to salespeople. And it's one small classification of marketing qualified lead that a lot of stuff needs to go into. Right, it starts with, it could be SEO through how they find you through your searches, but then it comes down to blog posts and social posts, emails that you're sending them, remarketing to bring them in. There's so many different touch points that you're going to use to be able to really take that person from a marketing qualified lead to that sales qualified lead. Yeah, really interested to interact with sales. We know they're educated. And again, coming back to, if we're using a system for this, we're using a modern technology that enables us to show this. It tracks the whole buyer journey from a marketing perspective, right? Which is huge, right? So that not only can a marketing person see this and go, wow, yeah, Mike has has signed up for this free piece of content. He's downloaded quite a few things. He's really gone through the nurture campaigns, interacted with all this stuff. God, he's even on our blog once a week. Great. Okay, no wonder he's signed up for something. But the really important bit is that then can get passed to sales in one handy dashboard, typically within your CRM, so you can see, hey, here's all the actions this person has taken. So you're not starting the conversation with, have you ever heard of Sandler training? Right? You're starting it with you know what they've been looking at, you know how engaged they are. And I think that's a big shift that we've seen. And as I said, high performing organizations are aware of this, and they're using this information, this data to their benefit. It leads to going to the salespeople at the right time. It might not always be a time when the buyer themselves has gone, hey, really love to have a chat with sales now. Okay, there's enough indicators before that for marketing to go, hey, this person is now a sales qualified lead. Yet they haven't put them hand up and booked a demo with you directly, but based on all these interactions and what we know from past activity, this person's ready to speak to you now. Go ahead and get in touch with them.
I think that's awesome. And just wrap up the behavior portion here. We need to figure out who our ideal client is first and get really clear about who we sell, what their problems are, and all of that stuff to know, who the buyer is. Then we got to look at their journey. What do they typically go through when somebody buys something like our product or service? We need to make sure on our end, we're really clear about what a marketing qualified lead is, what a sales qualified lead is. And then I think also what our ideal customer journey is. What would we like them to do in these steps? Do we want them to start with a podcast, or do we want them to start with a blog and then go to a webinar and then go to a sales meeting and then go to a proposal or something? I think when you have that clear, well-lit path that you want people to go to, what the next step is, and everybody in your organization does. So you go, oh, you just attended the webinar, then your next step is to set a meeting over here. And you can clearly do those pass-offs, where if you kind of just let buyers jump around on their own journey, it gets really messy. And I find that really hard to track and monitor. So as we get to technique here, you've mentioned tools. Obviously we partner with HubSpot. They have the marketing hub and the sales hub. So they fly wheel together, even the service hub. So you can tie it back in for the whole life cycle of a client. But any tips, tricks, or hacks for how we put all this together and make sure it works together?
Yeah, but so you said, we've got to, once we know who our buyer is, and that's something we've done, and we've worked out that buyer journey is not a one size fits all, right? Part of our technique has to be revisiting that together, right? So as I said, sales marketing talking to sales about pains and vice versa, and sales talking to marketing about what's doing really well, what should they be talking about. And there's a big piece in that happens internally within an organization to drive success in these areas. I think that a part of that technique also comes down to how you set up your system, having things like lead scoring. If we're driving people down a certain process that we know works, what are the steps we're taking to ensure people do that, right? What's our gated process at each step to make sure, as you said, someone that's been to a webinar is going on to the next step? Because we know buyers, as you said, can go all over the shop. It's our job to lead them through the correct path that we know is going to be the most useful to them. So what have we set up in place? What are those? What are the points? What are whether it's calls or emails or words that we're going to use at each step to lead people through the process that we've defined and that works best for our buyers? And I think that can be quite tricky to define up front, maybe. It's always a work in progress, but that's the kind of stuff that can really separate an organization that's really got this nailed down and one that's struggling and doesn't know, starts having those marketing sales arguments that we can occasionally see. And the other bit is things like feedback. So using your system, let's say systems like Gong, right, another partner of ours who can track the kind of words you're using in your sales systems, right? If you're starting to see certain words resonating really well in your sales situations, got to go back to marketing. That's got to go back that way. Vice versa, if marketing is seeing certain, let's say they can see Google ads and they can see certain terms that are really, really driving engagement and it's fluctuating. It's got to go back the other way to sales to go, hey, we're having a lot of interest about X. This is clearly what people are searching for. This is what we need to start having these conversations about, building some questioning strategies around there. And it comes back to how we're implementing our standard questioning strategies what those are, how we're reviewing them, because that's the technique that we've really got to make sure we've always nailed. We all know what good questions look like, but having that updated regularly, right, is a huge benefit to an organization, and that separates a low performing salesperson from a high performing salesperson typically.
Yeah, I mean, what I heard there really is we're talking about the playbook again. And I know we talk about a sales playbook a lot in Sandler, but I think even having a marketing playbook of the scripts or 30-second commercials that your salespeople could do in Vidyard videos and send out, or that they could marketing has the same talking points and pain points, and maybe like a survey that they could ask people online, or a poll that salespeople would also be asking those questions. And you can start aligning your sales and marketing talk tracks and best plays and working on the products that work. One that came to mind for me, and we don't have time to jump into it now, but I think people could look for our other podcasts on trials and demos, where I think sales and marketing can work really well together in a handoff, is with what we call a monkey's paw, or marketing might call a tripwire or a trust trial. That those are typically cool things where you might get some people from marketing to go ahead and purchase a small thing. And I'll just use Sandler for an example here. Most people don't call us up, unfortunately, and say like, hey, I want to spend tens, or large organizations, hundreds of thousands of dollars on sales training. Can I buy that off your website? Normally that's a conversation, because it's complicated issues that we're solving in delivery, that it requires a conversation with the salesperson. But they can buy our books online. You know, we have 33 best-selling books for different industries and stuff that could easily get somebody started to see if that would help them, or if they believe in our philosophy of sales training before they get to spending those large amounts. We have online courses and other products that you can buy, or you could attend our live summit or our virtual summits, where you hear our speakers or get a small amount of training for, you know, $500 to $1,500. That's a big difference between that and the large purchase. So I think that's a cool way, and maybe technique, to start thinking about how you can align together. But I'll give you one last crack at it here. Anything else we missed, or final thoughts on how we tie all this together and make it work?
I mean, the biggest thing that we've seen that ties it together is having all departments using one system, right, and speaking one language. So the marketing team have to know what the sales process is going to look like and what kind of words are being said there. The sales team have to know what kind of things the marketing team are talking about, how they're talking about it, what that looks like. And for us, we mentioned HubSpot. For us, it's having everything in one system there. So the marketing and sales live side by side, so that A, you can easily track people as they go through, work out what went well, what went wrong, and learn from that. But B, there's a visibility there, right? We talk about accountability a lot in Sandler, obviously. Sales should be accountable to marketing, and marketing should be accountable to sales, not in a confrontational way, right? Not in a way that causes us to have arguments, but in a way that sales need to be doing the best they can with these leads, and marketing needs to be providing the best they possibly can. And I think only having that in one system that is intelligently set up to match what your buyer is doing, are they going to be able to get there?
Yeah. I love that. Thanks for joining us today, Jeremy Thomson, longtime Sandler trainer from the UK, if you didn't tell by the accent by now. But I wanted to get to know you a little bit better, Jeremy, because it's your first time here on the podcast. How do you define success at this point in your career?
Good question. Does it make me smile? But I feel like that's maybe not what we're looking for, but that's typically how I.
No, that's a great answer. I love that question, because everybody's answer is different. And I feel like that's a great answer, especially after the last couple of years. That's extremely important. Was there a biggest hurdle or lesson learned in your career that you had to get over in order to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, for me, maybe it's so we do a lot of disc and silent. I'm a really high I. Right? I love people. I talk to people. So I'm not very good at confrontation. Okay, internally, externally, anywhere. Right. If it's internally, do you know what? Maybe I can do that for you. We can sort that out. Not so much now, but definitely in previous roles and previous companies, that's caused me a lot of headaches and a lot of effort and stress that maybe wasn't required. That if I maybe engaged my D part of the brain, sometimes I wouldn't have done. Or realistically, maybe try and channel my wife and use some S would have been a much better idea. But that's been my biggest one is learning to actually try and steer into confrontation, not in a way that I'm always looking for a fight, right? But in a way that you get certain signals and you pick them up quickly and always deal with them up front. Hey, it sounds like this could be a problem. I'd rather we talk about this now than this become an issue in a couple of months' time. And that's been a big learning that definitely made some mistakes in the past.
I love that. I just thought of a funny question. We can cut this out if you don't think it is as funny, but my sister was also a Sandler trainer and she ran a marathon and I was, I felt like some competition to keep up. Your sister starts doing triathlons and makes Great Britain's national team as an athlete and starts winning races, international races. Do you feel any competition there, or have you picked up your own thing? Like, are you going like, I'm going to go musician or artist or go at a completely different direction?
The ultra marathon, whatever she's doing, I'm just doing it bigger now. It's one that came out of the blue because I've always been quite sporty, and until Annalie was about 25 or 26, she wasn't interested in any kind of sport. Right, the number of years we were young trying to teach her to catch so we could play games was just wasted time, quite frankly. Right, whereas she got into it late in life and went, actually, this sort of competitive thing's really fun. I like this angle of it, and sort of driven her to be herself. But fortunately, I lived in Australia during the time that she started getting into this. So it was so far away, I didn't have to think about it being competitive. And now that I'm back in the UK, which when we think about it, do you know what? You've had a big run at me there. So actually, I'm okay with you being good at triathlon. We'll focus on that. That's fine.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, you gotta challenge her to poker or something else.
Yeah.
Not running, biking, or swimming at this point.
Yeah, we'll do things that she can't do when she's training too much. We'll do something like a drinking competition.
There you go. Yeah, that's great. All right, last question. Do you have a favorite Sandler rule?
I do. My favorite Sandler rule is don't paint seagulls, because I've worked in organizations obviously outside of Sandler, and it's one of those things that you spot so regularly, right? People just inventing things that you want to see. When we're working at one organization, they wouldn't do a pitch or proposal without there being about 60 slides in a deck, because they want to make sure they cover absolutely everything that could possibly come up, right? You look across the table at these poor prospects killing themselves, and you go, hey, just before we start, what are the 2 things you're interested in? Let's just go through them. Half an hour later, brilliant, you're at the next step. So that's always been a big one for me. So much so, though, that I'll often say it to people that have no idea what Sandler is will start to don't paint seagulls, right? They don't understand that. So it's when I find myself explaining an awful lot.
I love that. If you want more information on that rule, check out our YouTube channel. Look up Don't Paint Seagulls in Your Prospect's Picture. Jeremy, thank you for being on the show here. Let's wrap it up for everybody. When thinking about aligning with the buyer's journey, what is one attitude you'd like people to have? That
I think our mindset when we're working with prospects has to shift from selling to helping.
And what's one key behavior or action item you'd like people to do?
I think across an organization, you have to practice and constantly review your questioning strategies. It isn't just a sales thing. This is to marketing. Everyone should know these.
And finally, the best technique, tool, or hack to use.
I'm going to cheat and have 2, if that's all right. Best technique, stroke, repeat, reverse. Right, that's how we understand where our buyer is in our journey. But tool would be having proper lead scoring set up in your system. That helps everyone know what's going on.
You did it. Jeremy Thomson, longtime Sandler trainer from the UK. For more information on Sandler, as always, you can get our free resources at sandler.com and continue your journey with learning Sandler. You can also subscribe to this podcast, share it with somebody in your sales or marketing departments that need to hear it. And thank you for listening. Whatever you are, be a good one. The How to Succeed podcast is brought to you by Sandler, the worldwide leader in sales, management, and customer service training with over 200 locations. For more information, visit sandler.com.
The Sandler Summit returns